Being part of a mastermind has its innate benefits, one of which is gaining perspective from thought leaders in various industries. In today's episode of the Tech Leaders Playbook, we've done just that. We've put together a mastermind episode taking a handful of the best insights. This episode is jam-packed with valuable information you'll be able to apply immediately. Let's dive in.
How long does it typically take, if done right, to start seeing some results in the marketing spend? And what's a typical ROI expectation?
I wish that was an easy answer, but I'll give you exact examples from clients, right? Like this, I wish I could tell you it's always the same. It's you do A and B and this occurs. But Camino, the one I was telling you guys about earlier, it took us about 3 months. And it took us about 3 months to figure out a scalable Facebook strategy that also allowed us to learn what the product and the offer needed to be, to who our ideal customer persona was. And the combination of those three things led us to be able to scale that business. Literally at that point, we had no marketing, to be able to have offices in LA, Mexico City, as well as Colombia, and eventually raising upwards of $150 million, right? So that took 3 months. So 3 months of hard work led to that. Obviously, there was the strategy to take to that. There's other companies on, let's say, on the SEO side of things where you can't really run ads. Those take a little bit longer. So there's categories where you just can't run Google ads, or you just can't run Facebook ads, and it's going to take you a while to build up your authority. And those could take anywhere between 6 months and 9 months. But once you kind of get there, you're able to see the results. And how do we know this? You can look at the prior companies in front of you and how long it took them. And what did they do when they were at your stage? So if you had no authority, you had no overall content, what were the phases that they went through, and how long did it take them? And if you replicate a similar strategy, but obviously that's unique to you, it should take similar time frame, but using more of some of the modern techniques, you're able to speed it up.
Nice. And what's a typical ROI someone should expect? If I have a $50,000 budget, what type of ROI? 4x, 10x? What should I expect from these campaigns?
It's what you want, honestly. So that's part of the growth model budgeting that you do. So we have a client that they're trying to run at a 4 return on ad spend, right? So if they put $1 in, they want to get $4 back. We're able for them to not only get to the 4, we've been able to get to 8, 9, and 12 for them. And part of that is because not only are we optimizing the campaign, we're also optimizing the conversion rates that go along with that. And because you're able to get such a higher return on ad spend, you might actually be walking business. So part of the conversation we have with them then is we come back and say, hey, I'm spending $1, getting you 8 back, but if I spend and do these new experiments that we can both learn from, I could potentially untap new markets for you. So you shouldn't just sit on your laurels, right? You should always, marketing is such a dynamic game now, especially online. If you become complacent, it's very easy for you to go from winning to losing in a very short period.
Sure. But you said something interesting. You said it depends on what you want. 4x, 10x. I mean, we want the most possible, right? Because it's expensive. What's a typical? Like, what should I budget?
It varies. And again, like I'll give you an e-commerce one where, and it's not what you budget. You got to run through the whole model, right? So you got to look at it and say, and then let me say how we do this. If you're a SaaS business, you're looking at LTV over CAC. And LTV is the lifetime value, typically done in a 12-month annual basis, and a CAC is the customer acquisition cost. If you're early stage, you want to try to get sort of anywhere between ideally an 8x LTV over CAC within a 12-year period. So that means if you do, just to make the math easy, if you do $8,000 in annual revenue, you want to spend at most $1,000 to bring that customer in, okay? That will get you to a point where Series A investors will look at you with genuine interest and say, hey, you figured something out in your customer acquisition and your lifetime value of your customers. The other thing they will look at is the payback period. They will look at it and say, okay, great that you're able to do LTV or CAC over this, but how long does it actually take you to get the money back? Is it 9 months? Is it 3 months? Is it 5 months? Is it whatever it might be? The shorter that window, the better. So meaning if you're able to do it in 3 months, it's phenomenal. right? Like you're able to spend $1 and get that dollar back within 3 months. That means you only need a 90-day bridge in financing, which technically you can actually go find through different financing methods that could allow you to do this. So you actually don't need that much of my capital for marketing expenses. You're able to provide another source of capital that can do this for you. So that's just on that side. I could go into e-commerce too, but it really
No, that was
depends.
great. That was great advice for all the startups I work with and advise and invest in. How about let's talk about B2B established service businesses, right? These are the ones that struggle the most with marketing because there's no guarantee, and the way that they get their business, the way they get to a certain point of their success is just through grassroots marketing, word of mouth, referrals, mushrooming. How do you step on it if you're a service business, B2B, or even a marketplace type of service business? How do you accelerate?
I love it. Let's talk about our B2B playbook. So I was just giving you our B2S playbook, right? So our SaaS playbook. So our B2B playbook revolves around, and usually most service businesses, the reason they've been able to grow from 0 to $1 million, it's been founder led. The founder is super dynamic, is an incredible operator, might be a really good salesperson, and has built a strong enough network that's bringing him a decent amount of referrals that gets him roughly to close to about the 1 million to 1.2, 1.5, maybe even $3 million barrier. But for them to be able to scale up from that point, from the 3 to 10 million, they need to go from being founder led, and sometimes it might be sales led, sometimes it might be marketing led, sometimes it might be a balance of the two. And in order for them to be able to do that, they need to be able to figure out a way to get a decent pipeline constantly coming in. And usually what we've noticed on the B2B side is how do you enable and superhumanize what they've been able to do across their whole sales team. How do we do that? Okay. So the way we do that, there's incredible tools out in the marketplace now. These are some of the most cutting edge. They're signal-based cold outreach tools. And the way you're able to do that today as it stands is you can use a tool like Clay, C-L-A-Y. And what Clay does is it's a data enrichment platform, and it's able to listen for things like job openings. I'm going to talk about HireCloud right now. So if you could quickly see what companies are actually hiring, what roles and positions are they hiring for, and so on and so forth, and you can create this table or this workflow that's constantly updating the most latest current data points that are coming in. Based off of that, then you can start building out personas, and you can start putting in different hiring managers from the actual VP level, any level. It will automatically go into LinkedIn and pull out all of the contact information for you. Then you can tap into your OpenAI API endpoints, and you can start having it read their LinkedIn summary, have it read their company profile, and from that, then you can start creating different little snippets that you're going to use for which is going to be the next phase. And what the next phase is, then you're going to tap into one of the many, there's a new phase of cold outreach tools that are coming out. The one that we love is called Smart Lead, which allows you to send cold email at scale, but it controls it, but to ensure that it gets into inbox and you get deliverability. So what that now allows you to do is instead of sending 100 emails all at once, you send one email in a little small drip sequence. Based off of the data enrichment you did on Clay, you're able to uniquely write to someone. So you're able to say, hey, hi Avatis, I noticed that you, and this is an example of, this could be completely personalized, by the way. Hey, hi Avatis, I noticed that you are actively hiring for this role, mentioning the role. I've read the job description. It seems like you're looking for this type of person. Well, let me tell you a little bit about what we do. I'm from a hiring cloud. We hire all, and we have X amount of candidates already that could potentially fit this particular role. Here's an example of one. Would you like to set up a quick call and I can give you examples of all the others that I have? Something that can be fully automated, looking at every single job posting.
And Hamlet, do you think it's funny? I just literally had this conversation with a biz dev engineer. He called himself through a partner company. Basically, they create this, they build this for you, right? All of this workflow, because more and more you're going to have to automate things. More and more you have to inject AI into the business because people are challenging and sometimes not available and not always effective, right? Or sometimes too low volume. So this was a great example. So there's a lot of great tools, but you have to integrate them. Is this something your agency actually does for organizations?
We do, yeah. So the way we do this is we integrate by first doing a 1 to 2 month sort of like strategy deep dive into what your current workflow and process is. I wish everyone had the similar process. And then based off of that, we align with your overall goals of what you're trying to achieve. And then we supplement what you have with what we are able to do. So what I mean by that is if we start noticing you have a great sales team, but they don't know how to manage their CRM properly, and then in addition to that, they tell you they do cold outreach, but then when you look at it, they're doing it all wrong. We will take over those components of it and say, hey, they're great once they get on a call, but let us take care of the whole sourcing, fixing the CRM component up, and doing the actual outreach side of it. That's just one playbook, by the way. And in addition to that, there's others. We do things like what you're doing now, which is podcasts, right? So building thought leadership, building authority. We do webinars as well, and we look at webinars as a joint partnership, but we also look at it as a way of nurturing MQLs that are not SQLs. So when you start getting a bunch of MQLs and you don't know how to take them to make them if they're going to become an SQL for you, we start inviting them to different webinars, to different areas that they can learn from. Most of the times they will either register or they will attend, and then we have different playbooks for that. We have different playbooks for when they register and they don't attend, when they attend and they're engaged, when they attend and don't ask any questions. How do you handle each one of those?
Tony, let's talk a little bit about this 10x concept. Like when scaling a company, where do most leaders stumble? Is it process? Is it people? Is it mindset? Is it lack of work ethics? I doubt it's that. And how can they anticipate and overcome these challenges?
Again, I want to start by saying very important. You can't 10x in a segment that doesn't have the demand for it, right? So you have to be in the right. You have to find a lane. I think we did that multiple times. 2002, we thought break fix computer repair was stupid, that we should just charge monthly to prevent computers from breaking. Novel, now it's called managed services. Everybody does it. They've done it forever. But Rackspace built a huge business, in that in 2000s. But and so like that scaled quickly. Like we got like 25 customers immediately. Like, oh my God, you're gonna prevent this stuff from breaking? Like it's great. And you'll add, you'll upgrade my things when I need them. Like yeah. So the demand, was there. Then early days of Google Enterprise search. Nobody else did it. We did it. The launch of Google Workspace 2007, we did it. Nobody else. Like you get 10x when you have these opportunities. But the other thing, absolutely, number 2, talent. Talent, immediately you need talent. You can only do the things yourself for so long. And you need to, again, at a time where hopefully you can afford it, pay people to get the top people. Because if you're trying to get somebody that's worth a role that's really like pays $150,000 a year, but you're trying to find this person for 75, it's very hard. You have to hire young people with no experience, and maybe in 3 to 5 years they can become great, the best in the world. And at some market moments you can afford to wait but at some points when it's a more mature market you can't. You just have to go get that person, and they're going to be expensive. And then beyond that, I think is sales culture, sales capability, sales acumen. Of course, we pride ourselves on exceptional engineering. The quality of the delivery has to be great, but there's a lot of IT services companies started by engineers. They're so good at what they do, can't sell for shit.
Absolutely.
Can't sell, you're dead. Sales, you have to be sales-led, sales-driven. Again, so many salespeople at my company made so much more money than I did in any given year. That was okay. That was okay because it's performance-based, right? We crushed in sales. We were exceptional in sales. And then we learned how to tell stories around what we did when we learned that we need to. I was like, do marketing, but what's marketing? Like, it's really storytelling. You have to tell the best stories. You have to have the most customer references. You have to have these examples where it gives you, instant credibility when you're trying. So the sales part, people don't understand the value of sales. You have to have exceptional salespeople, great sales processes, the right pricing. You have to be able to quote people quickly, execute flawlessly. And if the sales experience isn't fantastic, what are people going to think about your delivery?
Yeah.
Right? If you suck at selling, they're gonna be like, oh shit, like they're not even getting back to me, and I'm trying to buy.
Yeah.
How? What if we have an issue? What if they're, so that has to be an exceptional. So selling, people forget about that. That's why these IT, services companies get stuck at a certain size. They can't sell. They're not hiring salespeople. They don't have the right sales leadership. They don't have a great sales culture. And again, the great sales culture isn't about screwing customers over. It's about meeting customer demand in the right way with a great experience at a fair price. That is a joy to do business with. As you pick up the phone when they call, you respond to their grievances immediately. You fix things. I made a mistake. Here's the refund. Here's a discount. What do you need? And then keeping those customers, right? Acquiring customers is very difficult and expensive. You want to keep customers, you want to grow those relationships. And so if you get those things right, I think the growth will come. Then, of course, you need processes after a certain size. I think the right number, Miles Ward, my CTO, got in and we're right around 140 people. And he said something about like anthropology beyond 150 to 170 people communication breaks down. So you need to start writing shit down. You have to document processes, create systems, document, because you end up telling the same people, different, the same thing 15 times, and everything's in people's heads. You got to write things down. You got to implement some good software for whatever, right? CRM, finance, accounting, payroll, whatever. Like you need good systems. Especially after a certain size, because communication breaks down. It's just anthropology. I think that's like tribal size, going back tens of thousands of years, like after a certain size, things break down. So you have to write things down. And that's it, man. Just keep executing, have a culture that learns from mistakes, quickly fixes them permanently, and celebrates wins. Good people, don't hire assholes. Make sure people love working there. They're rewarded for your success. All the success doesn't just funnel to the top.
Huge.
That it never lasts long. And be willing to share. Be willing to share profits and success and revenue, and you can't not reward people along the way, because that's just extremely short-sighted. See, somebody might say, going back to like, if you're shrewd, you'll pay people as little as you can. That's complete bullshit. Like, that's actually incorrect. It's wrong. You should pay people as much as you possibly can. Within limits. What I mean, within reason. What I mean is, like, don't think paying people less is smart.
Yep. Tony, you nailed it. You talked about customer retention. Talk about employee retention. They say it's 5 times cheaper to keep a customer. It's probably similar in keeping your best employees, right? Now, people can't get overly, almost, they can't use their pride when it comes to retention, because sometimes turnover is good, but you want to keep your best people, and it's extremely important to do that. One of the things that we were proud of is not how many placements we make, but when we do our hiring, is our people stay 2.3 times longer than industry average. So you might look at, it's something good. We did, and it's huge. And those people grow, they get promoted. 5 years later, they're the ones that are content is to hire for their team. So retention is huge, and you have to have a process for that. Then you talked about sales, Tony. So I've felt it firsthand as an advisor to startups who don't know how to sell. Their products are brilliant. They usually die because they just don't have a culture. A lot of them are offshore companies, but they want US to be their market. The problem is you have to have a person, boots on the ground, to sell in the US, I think. And then for me firsthand is, for years, I had so much business coming at me because of my network and the work I put in early in my career, that my team really didn't have to sell. So we became an incredible delivery machine. Our challenge was when the market turns, then your culture doesn't think the right way. They don't think, they're looking at you like, where's the food, pops? Almost, and you
Yeah.
have to. So I started lecturing them like back in my day, we used to walk 20 miles in the snow to get business. So we started warning them, hey, this isn't gonna last forever. And they would look at
Yeah.
us like, what do you mean? It's like,
Yeah.
guys, you got to start doing business development and sales to maintain this level. And I don't know if they believed us, they didn't. Those that believed us stuck around and are winning right now. Those that did not, unfortunately, aren't here one way or the
Yeah,
other.
that's what happens.
They couldn't. They're just
Natural.
they're waiting for us to feed them. So that's huge. Tony, one of the most impressive things about this exit that you had was the fact that it was a service business that you exited. To me, scaling service businesses are a lot more challenging than a tech play. Because if you get a great product in tech, eventually it'll sell itself and you really don't need as many people, especially now with all this AI. Tell us a little bit about the difference of, although you were a technology company, it was a service focused business. Tell us the key differences and how you could scale specifically a service technology product or service.
Yeah, I think so. We had a very interesting business model. P&L would reflect this business model. So we were certainly a service company, but we also sold a lot of the technology that we implemented. So we were reseller, MSP, professional services organization. Not deliberately built that way, but we just kind of where the market took us, where customers took us, that's what we did. We started out just services, but then as soon as we could sell, like early days, I was like, oh, like, hey, you need a new hard drive. Uh, well, if I could also just sell you the hard drive, doesn't that make the experience better? Because like, and then I don't have to worry about, are you going to get the right hard drive? Like, I'm just going to get the right hard drive, bill you $200 for that, and bill you $100 to install it, whatever, right? So we thought that like that value chain was really important. That translated into SaaS sales as well. Like the moment we could sell the enterprise search appliance, we did. The moment we could sell Google Workspace, we did. The moment we could sell Microsoft on their new CSV license, framework, we did. Because again, the continuity of accountability was really important, and the incentive alignment was really important. Um, and because we had like got Google and Microsoft in the mix, that also helped. Of course, brand association became another catalyst. Like we became the cloud people, we became the best at Microsoft Cloud, the best at Google Cloud, and then last 5 years, the Google, best at Google. I mean, Google and SADA, kind of synonymous. That was really great for us. But so I think if you have a product integrated into your services, especially a great product integrated with your services strategy, that certainly helps. I think, but if you don't want to be in that business of selling, I still think that being hyper specialized in what you're servicing is the only way to grow. If you're generic, if you're like, oh, we got a bunch of developers, like, what do you want to develop? What do you want to write on? We do everything. Like,
Yeah.
you're never going to grow that. Okay. Not, if you're a global systems integrator, you have to do that because once you win a customer, it's a big contract, but you have tens of thousands of employees, sometimes 100. Like maybe you can do that well, but if you want to be the best in the world, I think you got to hyper specialize in whatever professional services you're offering.
Huge.
That's critical.
Huge. If you're all things to all people, you're nothing, right?
Yeah.
Is
So
what
the
it is.
acquisition right after us at Insight was this ServiceNow, hyper specialized ServiceNow company, and I met the CEO founder, really brilliant guy, but it was like all they did was ServiceNow. They were the best in the world at ServiceNow. They didn't sell it. Doesn't matter. They were the best in the world at ServiceNow.
Wow.
That's it. They would
That's
beat
it.
Deloitte. They would beat Accent. They would beat other ServiceNow generalists, I would say, all the time because they were so good at that. So I mean, that's another thing of like, how do you start something? How do you compete in this market where there's other players? You got to create that level of niche, which means saying no to a lot of other things, saying yes to one thing that you deeply believe in and want to be the best in the world in. That's another catalyst for growth at the same time. You can't do it
Tony,
if you're generic.
It's funny, you took the words right out of my mouth. It almost sounds like sometimes it's not what you say yes to, it's what you say no to. But with that comes a potential problem, right? Because you all were a Microsoft partner, right? And you said yes to Google Cloud, with really no serious businesses were doing it.
Hmm.
So it's tough to really determine, like, how does a business determine that no, this is it, I have to say no to everything else, versus wait a minute, I can't say yes to everything, we know that,
Hmm.
but I gotta say yes and I gotta experiment, because the next play could be my 100x like you did with Google Cloud.
Oh yeah, there's a very specific way I think it played out for us, and I think could be applied, to other examples. But so in the beginning, we were like relatively generic, very early. Like, okay, it was kind of like basic Microsoft networking, and it was like .NET development, websites. We did voice over IP systems. Like, we're basically just trying things. As soon as you catch a tiger by the tail, and you know that that's what you do have to, like, we stopped doing, like, we don't do websites anymore, we don't do voice over IP anymore, like those didn't scale. They weren't, like, we didn't find the product market service market fit. Like, when you do have to shut down the other things. That's how you get to some sort of critical mass and hyper growth, and hopefully recognition and success and headcount growth. But then your other question is like that, oh, how do you make sure you don't miss the next thing? This is critical. So definitely innovator's dilemma. Very large companies struggle with this all the time. How did we, I think, outcompete the peer group? Is that we always had this sort of philosophy around how we would diversify. And for us, it was quite simple. It was like, if it's in the Google Cloud portfolio, we have to learn it. So we believed that if all you did was email migrations, completely different technology, methodology, implement everything, we could not only could we learn it, but it was existential that we learned it, right? Um, but even if you don't have that guiding principle of like a single vendor, like we did for a long time, you have to pick things to expand to that your customers would also buy from you, and they're adjacent, have enough commonality that you could cross train some of the people you have to learn how to sell it and deliver it, right? And you also have to have enough capacity, P&L capacity, to make multiple bets like that over time, such that if they don't work, you're going to be okay. But you can't stop taking those bets. It's like you have to lay some other chips on the table. You don't know what the next thing is going to be. Nobody has a crystal ball. Certainly when, like, ChatGPT came out, LLMs came out, the whole world of AI was turned upside down. It was clear that we had to become experts in Google stack of AI and Gen AI. But other times, like, we didn't know if Maps was going to work, as a business. We had no idea. And there's all these other things. We built a whole business around Facebook released a enterprise chat product. And we're like, dude, okay, Google sucks at this. Google Plus is dead. Microsoft yammered, that doesn't work. Nobody likes it. Our customers need this. And we think we can do it because we're good at, like, SaaS implementation and change management, whatever. And Facebook at the time, great brand as well. Dude, that business failed miserably. But we went for it. But we could afford the loss. And I didn't hire a bunch of new people to try to do it. I'm like, hey, Jason, you go. Actually, it was Jason. Jason, you go figure out how to sell it. I need 2 engineers on the workspace team to learn how to implement it, and we're going to try it. But even GCP started that way. I had one guy, Simon Margolis. Simon, you're really smart. Go learn. You like this stuff. Go learn. Like, code. You can do, like, infrastructure as code. You go learn. Like, learn how to do it, and we're going to try it. You have to keep doing that. If you don't do that, like a lot of our competitors didn't, the growth is going to stop. You're going to die slowly, and you're going to be supplanted by those who are more holistic for customers.
So we're really talking the cliche concept, which is a great concept, is the fail fast, right? You're constantly shooting bullets, and if it works, you drop a cannon. If it doesn't, you scrap it and move on. That's kind of the concept you're referring
Not
to.
not only fail fast, but you have to have a pulse on where the industry is going. You have to listen to your customers all the time. They'll tell you what they want from you.
That was my
And
next question, Tony. That was
yeah,
actually a great segue because you said something brilliant, but it's again, it's easy to say like we're watching film, right? You all won the championship, and you're like, these are the things you got to do. It's so much easier at this point. How do you find? You said find a market that is scalable. That's I don't know your exact phrase, but like how do you do that? I guess it's listening to your
look,
customers, but you tell me.
yeah, look, you have to either have a deep love and passion, and you have to be so into something that you read so much about it, you listen to so much content about it, you talk to so many people that you devise like a thesis comes together in your head, but it has to be something that you can't stop thinking about.
Sure.
Um, that way you can create like your own thesis around it and see something nobody else has seen. Like that's very important. But the other thing is just listen to your customers. They will tell you.
Yeah.
They will tell you. Talk to them all the time. Don't only talk to them when you're trying to sell them something
Yeah.
or deliver something or fix a problem. Talk to them all the time. They will tell you what they think you're good at, what the next thing they think, a need that they have, something that they have a need for that they don't see your capability to do yet is the reason they don't hire you. The market's right. The customers are right. Listen to your customers. They will tell you how you need to expand your services and to where. And I've always loved early days um, finding those customers that are, could be champions. You're like, oh, you have this need? It's new. I've never done it before. If you're willing to give me a chance, because I've been serving you for 5 years and doing a
Sure.
really good job here. I'm not going anywhere. I will do it for you for free if you're happy with the results, be a reference, right? Like that's how you actually learn these skills to do something you've never done before. The
Huge.
market's never done before. But the other thing about innovator's dilemma I don't want to forget is not only do you have to be able to see the future a little bit and talk to your customers a lot and fail fast, but uh, Avo, you have to be able to actually sacrifice yourself. You have to
Yeah.
cannibalize your own business lines to be able to make that leap. And I'll give you an example where it's both a champion customer example and the cannibalization example. Moving from we're putting all servers where customers are and a managed service around that, very cool, very lucrative, to hey, we can't scale this thing. We had this middle period between that and cloud where we're like, hey, we can do this thing. We can just put it all in downtown LA and spin up Citrix and terminal server and we'll just manage it centrally. I found two champion customers to try, failed miserably, rolled it back, kept the customers, right? Amazing. But when Google came out with hosted email for businesses, we're like, oh my God, we're charging $500 a month to maintain this Exchange server on premise. To do this, I have to be able to give up this $500 a month.
Wow.
But if we didn't, somebody else is going to, right? So
100%.
like we have to kill our traditional managed services business slowly if we were going to really bet on the future. And massive companies, especially public companies, failed at doing this. Rackspace to this day is a shadow of what it used to be because they had this dilemma that they couldn't translate their amazing, best in class, world renowned managed services business, private hosting business to cloud. Like they got it all wrong.
That's why they're
And
like the
it's a
number
shame.
nine cloud, right? They're in the cloud game, but they're who knows where they're at. I
Yeah.
get
I
it.
mean,
I wrote
tons
a
of mistakes, but like that's innovator's dilemma. It happens all the time in every industry. Not only do you have to see it and do all that, if you can't cannibalize your shit, somebody else is going to do it for you.
That's funny. I put a LinkedIn post about that specifically. Is if you don't disrupt your own business, somebody else will. It's just a matter of time. Might as well be you, right?
Might as well be
Really
you.
good. David, what's like a common, I guess, mistake companies make when they're trying to integrate AI into their workflows?
Well, I think they just try to do too much too fast, and they're not taking cultural impact. Like they're just
Yes.
some companies just assume people are going to accept this in their companies, and they and it's surprising how many people are not comfortable with AI and haven't spent any time using it and don't realize what it can do and the value. So that's number one, is that there's a good understanding of where there can be cultural acceptance in your company, and those are areas where you might want to focus first, and work on the areas where you don't believe there is cultural acceptance, and start to kind of do some education and training and DEI, AI wise,
Yeah.
right? To make it acceptable, to make people feel safe about what AI is going to do to help them with their job as opposed to replace their job. That's probably the biggest thing. The second thing is not having a game plan, a really implementation game plan that prioritizes and steps AI into various roles in the company, which can be easily done, but it requires understanding where the priorities are and where you can have the most success, and doing some assessment of that. And the third thing is they just don't recognize that AI is going to make any difference, or workflow automation is that important. And there are a lot of companies that are backward in that way. They may be leaders in their industry, but they're very backwards in terms of their own workflow automation in their company. And they feel like, well, we're dominant because we have a reputation and a brand, and everybody knows how good we are at all these things. And but everything is still very manual.
You talked a little bit about fear. Even with AI, I think there's a fear of missing out, right? How much of that drives why companies are injecting AI into their workflows, and sometimes too quickly, sometimes ineffectively, because they don't want to be behind. At the same time, they just don't have a good strategy. Like, what's your thoughts on that? Is there some truth to that as well?
Oh yeah, I think so.
So
I
a little
think that's
FOMO,
probably
yeah?
true. I think that's true with everybody, right? Including me. I mean, including my company, in terms of that fear of missing out on stuff. We try to be on the very leading edge of all this stuff, to the degree that we're in this process of creating all the procedures and protocols to build our applications using AI, and we're at probably 30% right now. When you look at the application whole, the UI, the data, the architecture, the database, the backend, the microservices, the deployment, we're at about 30%. We have a plan to get to 80%. And we think we can do that in the next 4 to 6 weeks. But there's problems in this process, real significant problems. So part of it is you think, oh, AI can do all this stuff. But then you hit real walls where AI just isn't quite there yet. For example, context. AI has a lot of trouble when you get to complex things like a big application. Once it gets to a certain size, and it's not that big, it has a lot of trouble understanding when it needs to make a change in one area. That change ripples down into other areas, and then it starts breaking things, right? Or it forgets how it's supposed to work in certain areas, and it changes that. So we have potential solutions for these things, but this is an internal R&D project to implement these things. So there's certain limitations that you have to understand what AI is capable of right now and not, and recognize that it's evolving at light speed. So faster than anything else I've ever seen.
Same here. Same here. Let's say they're a tech-driven company, but they're not a tech company. Should they be trying to build these things, or should they be buying or bringing in expertise from the AI perspective?
I think that's a great question. And I think that's a question at the heart of any time you build versus buy. So the question is, how much of a critical success factor is the thing you're talking about building or buying in terms of delivery in your business? Is there something that's competent that can deliver that for you and give you enough value based on the cost? Because then you can get there quicker if it's already there. And is it part of your intellectual property? in terms of your actual core competencies are, because the closer they are to your core competencies, then the more likely you should be to want to build it. The farther they are from that, like a CRM. If let's say you're almost any company that has sales and communication with customers, right? Is CRM a core competency of your business? Probably not. It's probably neither is bookkeeping, right?
Yeah.
Having a bookkeeping software. These are tools. Even though they're critical to your success, they're not part of what makes you as a company, right? For me, it's our software development team. It's not project management. It's not, to a certain degree, it's not the code stacks that we use, right? It's our skill set around that stuff and our ability to build unique, distinct things that automate our internal processes. And I can talk about those things in detail because we're building a lot of things to automate the processes internally. And those are core competencies that will probably turn into SaaS products because everybody needs the things we're building. If the same way that other companies build products that they need internally, that they start to market to their industries.
You talk a lot about this launch first method. What exactly does it mean, and how are you implementing that with all the 70 plus startups you've worked with?
Okay. So, and thanks for that. And this is a passion of mine, primarily because I've watched so many startups fail. And I feel there's a much better way to launch a SaaS B2B startup in particular is kind of that would be our type channel. The idea is that most of these startups, they fail because they've been sold this idea that they have to create an MVP and build a pitch deck and go out and raise money as the way of launching. And they raise money from VCs or angel investors. And yes, and that is a way to do it, but there's a better way of doing it. And the problem with doing that is all the work you do to raise money, create your pitch deck, go out and market yourself to these VCs, none of that moves your business forward at all. Unless you get lucky and a VC funds you and they've got a network of other companies that they've funded that can help accelerate your growth. But that's not very so. And I've corroborated these numbers. A typical VC might see 3,000 pitch decks for every 30 investments they make. And out of those 30 investments, 3 will be successful at an accelerated rate. Another 3 to 4 or 5 of those will become profitable, but not significantly, and the rest fail. So this is VC funded.
Give me the numbers one more time, David.
Yeah, out of roughly 70% of VC funded startups fail.
Okay.
30% of them are successful to some degree, and only maybe 5 to 10% of them really get big, growth curves.
And those are impressive numbers. Those are actually surprisingly, because I'm an investor as well, and one of the things I hear often is 90% of startups fail or don't do anything worthy of a mention, right? They might not completely close their doors, but they might end up being a lifestyle business for the 2 owners or something as a side project, right? And that's not enough to give the VC its 10x or 100x that they're looking for, or frankly, angel investors either.
Yeah, and I'm going to refine those numbers and I've corroborated this with many other software shops that develop software in B2B and B2C space and things like that. It's more like 98% of software startups fail, right? And some of them just never even get, ever generate any revenue. And you never hear about those. They never make the statistics, but it's a large number. Startups fail at huge numbers. And I know I've seen this myself. I wouldn't say that's the percentage of startups that have failed with techies, but it's not far from that. And I've had a few really successful ones, and the really successful ones are, they follow certain patterns. Like I said, one is they go out to their customers, they spend their time on the problem. They go out to the customers early, they get financial commitments from those customers in terms of checks early to prove that this is a product where there's a market, and enough of those customers they get it from so that they know it's not a fluke. They've got 1 or 2 friends that believe in them, but this is a product that's really needed in the market. So with Launch First, what we do is we say, you need something to demo to people if you're going to ask them to buy something. but you need to ask them to buy something as soon as possible. It doesn't have to be a working product. It doesn't even have to be a real product, but it has to be something that looks like a real product, and it has to have enough of your vision implemented so somebody can see the value that they're going to get in this product over time. So what we do is we create a really sophisticated set of mock-ups that are animated that look like a real product and behave like your real product. They're just not a real product. They're not an MVP. They're much broader than an MVP. They show a lot more of the functionality of your product than an MVP does. They can, but they're not real. But when you demo it, the person you're showing it to could not tell that you're not demoing a real product. You never lie to a prospect. You always tell them this is a high fidelity prototype and the actual product won't be available for 3 to 6 months if it's a pure pre-launch sale. And there are different ways of doing these launches, which is why I say that. But they won't hear that if it's realistic enough, the product that you're showing. What they'll think is they must have developed it and they're testing it and they're not releasing all the features right away. That's what they think. And then you go out and you say, look, let's do some high value sale to you. We'll give you a lifetime license. You pay me 18 months of the subscription fee advance and you will get this lifetime license and you'll be part of the pre-launch club where you get free implementation, a phone number where you can call anytime for support and help and things like that. And people go, and when I tell people this, they go, lifetime license, I'm giving away my market. And I say, okay, fine. Let's say you sold 200 copies at $2,500 each, licenses, right? So you just raised $500,000 from customers. These are invested customers who will be the best beta customers you could possibly have because they need the product, they want the product. And if you look at how much of your market you gave away, it's probably an immeasurable fraction of a percent that you've given away. Now go out to a seed investor and try to raise that same $500,000. How much of your company you have to give away for that?
Exactly.
And then I go, oh, yeah. And plus, you've got a revenue engine. So if you do want to raise money, you've shown traction, you've shown product market fit, you've got a killer prototype to demo, and now raising money is a whole different discussion.
So David, it's kind of reversed in a way where instead of me spending 3 years building this brilliant platform that I am in love with, as you said earlier,
right?
And now I have to go and convince people that it's a great product, and they're like, I don't need that. Oh, no thanks. Instead, what you're saying is you're going out there, you're giving people an idea of what you're building, you're asking them what they would want to become customers. You're
Right.
getting a commitment that they will buy when the product is ready or right now?
They buy now. They have to buy in now because you're giving them a killer deal. You're doing that in exchange for them buying in early. So there's a couple ways of doing this. One is a classic pre-launch sale where first version will be an MVP, won't have all these features, but it'll be out in three or 4 months, right? So they only have to wait a few months, and then you have to make some guarantees about if it doesn't come out, that you'll refund their money, that sort of thing. But that's safe to do as long as you've scoped the MVP tightly enough. People understand as long as they see a roadmap and features coming out that'll be, all they need this because their problem you're solving for them, if you've been focused on the problem, is really costly and their perception of the impact is really high. So you found that early adopter, they need the product, they'll pay for it, and they'll be your best support system in terms of helping get to product solution fit where, you get in the features that really capture the value that they need.
David, one of my favorite AI products that I use currently is an AI assistant. And this gentleman did just that. Basically, he has a product it's actually ready. It's in kind of beta mode, right? I get it for 1/10 the cost, $99 a month or something like that. It's brilliant, and he keeps refining and improving the product. But I mean, he got this thing off the ground, and he was generating revenue from, very quickly. Very impressive, and the product keeps getting better and better. And every couple weeks we meet, and he adds features and he corrects things that are missing. I really like the approach, and I was happy to give him $100 a month for an AI assistant that would listen to all my meetings, show up, give me notes. And now it's getting smarter and smarter. Now it's attending meetings I don't go to and giving me insights from, other meetings, and it's starting to understand hey, this meeting, there's been mentions of this issue across multiple meetings. Here's a potential solution. So now it's giving me solutions in my own business.
Oh, I'm really curious what the product is because I've thought about building that product many times. We just have too many other internal initiatives that we're working on.
Great
So I'd like
product.
to-
It's called Powerline. I can introduce you to the gentleman. Really smart young
please
guy.
do. Yeah.
Really good product.
That's exactly a great way to launch if you're doing it MVP style, where you just build the very simple core and you find people that'll buy it, right? That'll buy in early because those people become your roadmap in terms of how you need to build the product out to really capture value. And you don't always want to do what everybody asks you to do in your product, right? They'll ask, this is important for me. Fine. Is that what the market really needs? Is that solving a problem that problem is being a lot of people are struggling with that problem? If it is, then it's a high priority on your roadmap. If it's just something that would be a coolness factor, then it's probably a low priority.
How do you measure a lot of people? Is it 10 people? Is it 30 people? How do you kind of validate what a lot of people need so that, you're not sitting there in analysis paralysis for the rest of your life, but you're talking to enough people where no, this is legit.
You try to quantify from them, first of all, what is the cost and how much does this impact you personally? This problem, how much would it fix that if I created this feature? Then you start asking that from other people. And you very quickly get a sense, if you just capture how many people are supporting this idea or not supporting it to the degree that you need, whether or not it's dominant in your market. And if your market is niched properly so that in this niche it's dominant, this niche not so much, and which is your early adopter niche, then you're going to try to focus and capture that early adopter niche as much as possible. Another one mistake that a lot of founders make is they think that their product applies to lots of niches, and maybe it does, but you can only sell to one niche at a time.
Interesting.
Because the tighter you can identify that early adopter niche, and the smaller and tighter you can identify, the higher your closing ratio of sales and the more you can charge. So it's an very direct inverse relationship to those things. And most founders don't nail it like that.
And that brings us to the end of another great episode of the Tech Leaders Playbook. I want to thank you for joining us and hope you took away some valuable insights to apply in your professional journey. Don't forget to subscribe on your preferred podcast platform so you don't miss out on the next great conversation. I promise it'll be good. If you enjoyed today's episode, we'd appreciate if you could leave us a review. Your feedback not only helps us improve, but it also helps others discover the podcast. Better leaders mean better working environments. Better working environments leads to happier people. Remember, a rising tide lifts all boats. I'm Avita Santablian, and this has been the Tech Leaders Playbook. Keep leading, keep learning, keep giving, and I'll see you on the next one. Until then, stay inspired, my friends.